of this service. Again, he's talking about giving money, and he calls it ministry, a service to others. This, he says, ministry, the ministry of this service. And service here, the Greek word, is often used for priestly service. And so what I believe he's saying here is that this giving is not only an act of grace, not only a ministry, but also even an act of worship. Notice they gave themselves first to the Lord. And so this giving was an act of grace for others. It was a ministry to others, but it was also an act of worship. So giving is more than just giving. Now, before I give you some reasons why we should live generously, I want to give you two bad motivations for giving. So bad motivation number one, giving to get. So some people's motivation for giving is to get something. Maybe get something from others. Maybe get a favor in return. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Maybe it's to become more likable. Maybe others will like me if I'm generous, so I'm giving to get. Or maybe the motivation is to get from God. Maybe if I give, then God will then bless me financially. Now, I'm not saying that that good things can't happen as the result of our generosity. Even Paul, at the end of this passage in verses 13 through 15, he talks about how the Gentile believers have been blessed by the Jewish believers, because really that's where it all began, in Jerusalem. That's where the church started, and the gospel went out from there, so that eventually Gentile believers, Gentiles were saved and became believers. And so in a sense, the Gentile churches owe the Jewish believers, but that's really not the motivation. The motivation is not, what can I get out of this if I give? Good things can happen. Maybe the Lord will bless us financially if we give. Maybe we'll make some friends if we're generous. Those things can happen. But that's not to be our real motive in giving. You might wonder, well, what about a verse like 2 Corinthians 9:16 in the next chapter? Whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. Is this verse encouraging us to give so that we can get the blessings of God? It's a verse that's often used by TV preachers to convince Christians to give. Now, if you, it seems like the program is always in danger of going off the air. If we don't get a certain amount of money right away, we'll have to shut everything down. So give, and the Lord will bless you financially. He'll bless you tenfold, 50-fold, 100-fold. If you give 1,000, the Lord will bless you with 10,000. So it's appealing to our selfish nature, I believe. And so it's not saying give so that you can get financially. We need to keep in mind that the churches of Macedonia, they gave generously, but they remained poor. So we don't give so that we can get. Maybe the Lord will bless, but that's not to be the motivation to give. We don't give so that we can get. We get so that we can give. Notice what verse 11 says. And this is chapter 9. You will be enriched in every way to be generous in every way. So the Lord, if He blesses us financially, does so that we might be generous. So what has God given you? What are the resources that God has given you that you can be generous with? So bad motivation number one is giving to get. Bad motivation number two is giving to impress. Look at how generous I am. Is that the motivation? This was the motivation of some of the religious leaders in Jesus' day. He talked about them in Matthew chapter 6, verses 2 through 4. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you. In other words, don't look for attention as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. They're looking to impress other people. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. Their reward is just the applause of people. Verse 3, but when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. He's not saying that we always have to give in secret, but what he's saying is be careful about the motivation to impress other people. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. So don't give to impress. If impressing others is our motivation for giving, then God is not impressed with that. Here's something to think about. We could apply this to giving here in this church, giving an offering. I don't know how much people give. And really, no one knows the total amount except for the person who hands out the tax receipts each year. And so we don't know how much you give. But would you be more motivated to give if everyone knew how much you gave? Would you be more motivated? Does that say that we're motivated then to impress others, or more concerned with what people think than what God thinks? And so those are a couple of bad motivations. Giving to get, giving to impress. Paul doesn't try to motivate them with those two motivations. Good motivations. I'll give you three of them, 3 reasons why we should live generously. First of all, this is an obvious one. Living generously helps others. He's collecting money to help needy believers in Jerusalem. And remember what Jesus said about helping a Christian brother or sister in need. He said, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me. So to give to a needy brother or sister is to give, in a sense, to Jesus. And would you refuse to help the one who died for you? Would you say to Jesus, sorry, I can't spare $10? We wouldn't say that. But remember what Jesus said about helping those in need. And so very practically, living generously helps other people. Secondly, living generously proves that our love is real. Let's go to verses 7 and 8 of 2 Corinthians 8. But as you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in all earnestness, and in our love for you, see that you excel in this act of grace also. I say this not as a command, but to prove by the earnestness of others that your love also is genuine. So Paul wants the Corinthians to excel in this act of grace, to excel in giving. He wants them to match the earnestness of the Macedonians so that they'll prove that their love is genuine, real. As I was thinking about that, I thought of a couple of other New Testament passages about helping people in need. The first is James chapter 2, verses 14 through 17. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, be warmed and filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. Is our love for others just talk? There's a quote from commentary I read. Paul knows that words expressing love come cheaply and can be faked. Genuine love will show up in the checkbook. Apostle John writes, "Let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth." And so living generously proves that our love is not just talk, but is real. And then finally, number 3, living generously is the proper response to Christ's generosity. Look at verse 9. "For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor, so that you by his poverty might become rich." By the way, when he says you might become rich, not talking about financial wealth. He's talking about salvation, rich in salvation. When Paul says that Jesus became poor, he's thinking about the incarnation, the one who is rich in status, equal with the Father, humbled himself, became poor. And he did this so that he could give his life for our salvation. God is the ultimate giver. You can't outgive God. There is no one as generous as he is. Another quote from the same commentary: "For Paul, the basis for giving to others is not what they have done or will do for us, but what God has already done for us in Christ. The foundation for giving is God's grace." So we shouldn't be generous. We shouldn't give to get or to impress. We should give, we should live generously because it helps others. It proves the genuineness of our Christian love. And it really is the proper response to Christ's generosity. Him coming into this world to die for us. Are you a recipient of God's grace? If God has been generous with you, then you should be a generous person. I should be a generous person. Let's not have those bad motivations for giving. Let's have those right motivations. And when it's hard to give, it was hard for the Macedonians to give. When it's hard to give, remember what God has given to you. It was hard for Christ to give his life, but he did that in love for us. In love, we need to give ourselves first to the Lord and then give ourselves to others.